widely acknowledged for revolutionizing the real estate sector with his visionary outlook and technology-based solutions. Anuj has received significant national and global recognitions for his contribution to the real estate sector. He has also been associated with various national and international industry forums in various capacities and serves on multiple public and private sector company boards. So today we have Anuj Puri, whom I call the Superman of real estate, and he's been a great advisor to our fraternity for many years, and he's so approachable and accessible that when you call him, he's back with solutions, and he's a great guy. So he'll give us his views on the COVID, the new world that we are facing today, and how we deal with it going forward. Anuj, you can start.
Sorry, Anuj, just before Anuj starts, just a couple of housekeeping issues I just want to quickly take. So I'll request everyone to please keep your microphones on silent, on mute, and also your videos off so that we can get better bandwidth. The way we'll try and format it is that, we'll request Anuj, Shobhit and Prashant to speak to us about the current situation to begin with. And then we've got a bunch of questions which we've already got from people. We'll start, with some question answers, and I'll also request you to keep sending your questions on the chat option. I will pick those up from there, and we'll try and club a few questions and get as much out of this interaction as we can. So we have now almost close to 150 people on the chat, and this is of course only from Bengal. So let's get this started. All waiting to hear you, Anuj.
Thank you very much, Apurva. I got an opportunity to speak with Nandu and Apurva, and they guided us what would be the best for this group. Both Shobhit and I can confirm, and Mayank is also on the line. That our deepest friendship in the real estate fraternity is with the guys on the screen. Deepest friendship. We both stay in Bombay. What we're telling you is that we just love the team who's there on the screen. I think the only occasions that I have ever drunk and lost control over myself is when I am in Calcutta. So we will give you anecdotes which we've not shared with a lot of the other groups. That's because we just believe this is more friendship than actually CREDAI. I mean, I see Sushil Mota there as well. One of the trendsetters. So when I spoke with Apurva said is that Anuj, just tell us what's happening. Just give some solutions on it and what your thought is on the way forward. So we don't want to go through the report that you've released. Many of us have attended the MCHI. We want to understand the anecdotes. What are some of the other guys doing? What are the occupiers on the office and the retail doing? How are some of the good corporate developers really going out and selling? What is the new trend that you're seeing from China? So all that we are going to do is really on the anecdote, which is all backed by data. And then Shobhit is going to talk about specific to Bengal, that what the funding may or may not be available. And then Prashant is going to give just Bengal data so that it becomes very relevant to the community who's watching us. So I would say 10 things to begin with, and I'll take the easier topics first, because it may not relate to many of you on the screen, but it's office and retail. Retail is quite popular in Calcutta. On the office front, we have started to now notice that the occupiers have started to give notices that they'll not be able to take the hard and the soft options. So these are the expansion notices that they're coming, that when the soft option or the hard option is coming up for due, we're not going to be able to take it, and hence that space is free for you to be able to lease it out to whoever you want. The second is, we had made mistakes, Shobhit and I had made mistake this in JLL. In 2008, September, the collapse happened. We resisted to say that India is decoupled. Nothing is going to happen to us. America, you do whatever you have to do. Hong Kong, whatever you have to do in JLL, we're not going to do. And in March 2009, it really hit us. So, remember that it is 6 months
lagged because they first sort out their economy, their people, their clients, their space in the US before they come in here. The third is Calcutta that way is blessed, Apurva and Nandu, is that, you don't have large, office occupiers. I know Apurva has a fair amount of exposure in Bangalore. I think that'll be a market that one will really need to watch for. What's happening in the lockdown period is different developers are behaving differently with the occupiers. Some of the developers are saying is, we're not going to give you any rent-free because your servers were working from our space. If the servers were working from our space, that means your people were productive. So, why are we going to give you rent-free? Some of the other developers, particularly the smaller occupiers, with them, they're a little bit more harmonious, and they are, taking a position. Okay, tell us what is it that we need to do. But all the discussion is only for the lockdown period. The verdict is not yet out whether this pandemic is being considered as a force majeure or not, and Shobit is going to throw some light on it. Many legal guys have said is that it is or it isn't. The government hasn't really declared it. A lot of people have that notification to say it is a force majeure. They have not yet declared it as a national calamity. In that, many of the leases anyway did not have force majeure. We spoke with one of the large private equity guys who was on our internal webinar. They have 34 million square feet of office space in India. They also have in Calcutta. They said we never had a force majeure clause only in our leases, as a result of which the occupier has to give this thing. But the way it is happening is, most of the smaller landlords with smaller occupiers are discussing. Larger landlords have already taken a position that, from our perspective, the rent is due and you have to pay during the lockdown period as well. I'm going to quickly move to retail. It is a tough conversation that is happening on the retail. We got data just ahead of this meeting, and I was going to read it out. In China, I'll read two parts to it, and then when I come on to the residential, I'll read the rest of the parts. So government has come out with a consumption campaign, but people are refusing to bite, both because of health worries and financial worries. People are still cautious and not going outside too much. No one is eating in restaurants. Shopping malls are empty. I've had on Sunday 2.5-hour discussion between retailers and developers. It is a difficult conversation because there the discussion is not about the lockdown period. Many of the developers are okay not to charge the rent. The discussion is post the lockdown period, the occupiers, the retailers saying is at least for 3 quarters, we want revenue share. And this is coming to you as well. Many of the owners who are on the screen, either it would have already come to you or it is on its way, that it is going to find that where they will be wanting, not during the lockdown, post the lockdown. I think the developers are very clear that, how are we going to support you? Because we've taken LRDs. And, the banks will get into default with the bank, and the bank will make it into an NPA in there. Both of them have now jointly sort of combined and trying to do advocacy with various government bodies, whether it is the RBI, the finance ministry, the state government, also putting together that when this all opens up, would the government allow retail stores to open? Would they allow malls to open? If they are, then how are they going to allow the malls to open? So I think each owner will have to start thinking very carefully that how you're going to allow the mall to open with the social distancing and the restrictions remaining, considering that vaccine is unlikely till the beginning of next year. We think is that retail will get beaten. Privately, we've spoken with a lot of retailers. We've spoken with the Retailer Association of India. They're saying is nearly 30% of our members will not survive this onslaught. That is how bad they are saying is that this is on this occasion. And, it is not about the rent. And they explained it to us. They're saying is it is about the merchandising, which is in the store, which is going to go out of fashion. And the season is going to change. And by the time the stores and the malls will open, the value of that merchandise is 60% eroded in there. So, clearly that's a problem statement. The third one Apurva, I'll cover quickly because I know you requested we try and roll it in 45 minutes. The third one is on the residential, 5 or 7 points. And I just want to also give some trends and some future looking and some of the big boys in Bombay are doing. And I'll also give you where what we are doing. The first is, in the survey that we have done, 20,000 home buyers or prospective home buyers. First is, guys, collection is going to become difficult of inventory that you have already sold. So, please start to focus on your teams, on your CRMs to make sure that collection is now becoming priority. When we have done the survey, these guys are still got their jobs. There has been no salary cut on them. Yet they are saying is that, we're going to tell the bank to go slow on releasing the payment to the developer, or if they were going to do the installment, they're like, we want to see what it will be post the lockdown, whether I have the job or whether I get the pay cut or not. And guys, please, Apurva, spoke with me earlier, and he said is that, Anuj, we will need our money on this because we have commitment. I'm saying is, please be sympathetic, please be compassionate, because the risk of his canceling is very high at this moment in time, only because emotions are running very high. Just let this phase go down a little bit. Let it settle a little bit. I know all of us are in need of money. All of us need cash at this moment in time. And if the installment is due, it is due in there. That's the first trend. Second is, guys, NRIs are coming back in large numbers. We're starting to receive a lot of requests on NRIs. Maybe it's because of the dollar, maybe because US, UK, there's nervousness. There is, thought that the jobs will not be there. I mean, you look at the US data, 17 million, employees are jobless now there. And a lot of these guys will be who had gone there 4 or 5 years ago. This will not be second, third generation Indians who are wanting to come back. These are people who have just gone with TCS or Infosys or Wipro and were there for 3-4 years. They know that this job is not going to be there, and hence they'll need to come in, and hence the NRI demand is going up. 3 or 4 things, and I'll pass it on, Shobit, to you. The quality of construction is going to be extremely important. When Prashant's team did the survey, they said is, we have now stayed in our house for whatever, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. We know how many cracks there are in the house, which we never noticed before in there. And hence there will be a flight to quality. Also, that there will be change in the product design. They want more flexibility of space, not necessarily more space because they may not have the budget to do that, but they want more flexibility of space. And Apurva, this is even in the affordable 1.5 bedroom guy also has said that only that, I didn't know that, we could be in these situation, and hence there will be new thoughts that will need to be done. We think construction activity has to continue because they are like, we're going to see post the lockdown if the guy is going to continue with the construction. Any guy who stops construction, I'm telling you, is that that's where the nervousness will start. And again, a very difficult thing. Revenue is 0, 0, 0 on the top line, and on the bottom line, we guys are saying is, well, continue with the construction. I mean, labor is another thing which our survey showed when Prashant's team has done it, that when the borders open, labor is likely to go back home, not come back to work. They will first go home and then come back, because the nervousness is that this will be lockdown, open, like this. It will continue for a little while, and hence they are wanting to, go back. The last one that I would say is, which is the big one, is that this online digital, guys, it is here to stay. It is doing. We started on Monday last week, and for this purpose, I'm going to give you the exact data. This does not include commercial. From Monday to this weekend, 143 apartments sold, valued at 134.80 crores. Now, it's not a great number. I mean, it'll be like 15% of our normal sale that we do. But it is in 1 week, it is 15% of the normal sale. And this I am not including guys which were there at the brink of closing the transaction before the lockdown came in. That is another revenue number, which anyway was going to happen. It was only that, their check hadn't come in or things hadn't come in. This is where start to stop has been done. And, Godrej is a listed company. Shobit will tell you, I spoke with them this morning. This morning at 11 o'clock, I spoke. I said, your numbers, how genuine, how accurate they are. And this is the leadership guy. And he said, Anuj, from 15th March to 31st March, I did 900 crores of sale. And it's a listed company. And Shobit, during the lockdown period was how much? 400? Sorry, you are on mute, Shobit.
During the lockdown, just after 20th, when it was national, they did 200 crores.
200 crores that they have.
In the lockdown period, and 35 crores of fresh leads. So out of 200, balance was just sort of landing because there were a few auspicious days. But 35 was started after 20th and finished before 30th.
Yeah. So that's where I'll stop. Lots of other things to do. How do you go out and sell in these markets, Apurva, and how do you sell, etc., etc. I'm not wanting to bore the audience. There are more important things, but if they want, they can ask their teams. I can have our team, to tell how this online is really going on, and what are the things that you have to do and say, and what is the preparation that is required to get onto the online. Last thing I would say is, and it's a great segue into Shobit. Our thought is in the next 2, 3, 4 weeks, the interest rate on the EMI will be at its lowest in 14 years that we may have seen. I think it is 2004 to 6, Shobit. We had seen about 7.5%.
4 to 7 was 7%.
7%.
Yeah.
We're coming down to that level. And there are a little bit of boost by the government. And, by the way, sorry, one thing I forgot to tell you is that we got the China numbers for you. And this is data that came in from Capital Economics. Top 30 cities selling 5,000 homes a day before COVID. In March, they're back to, in lockdown, it was 0. In March, they're back to 3,000 homes per day. That 3,000 homes per day is because of the urgency that the government has created to say is that these are the benefits for a finite period of time. Developers haven't necessarily brought their prices down. It is the government benefit equivalent to our stamp duty, GST, equivalent to the tax that you pay on the EMI interest that is now 100% being exempted there. So it is those things that they have done for a period of time. And that's where it has come up to 60% of its previous sale only in March so quickly. Shobit, over to you.
Introduce Shobit to the group. I'll just introduce Shobit, okay?
Please. Sorry.
Please.
Shobit Agarwal is the MD and CEO of Anarock Capital. He has over 20 years of experience in real estate investment. He is responsible for driving growth in investment banking with a focus on structuring joint ventures, raising equity and debt advisory on disposals and acquisition in core markets. Prior to joining Anarock, Shobit led the India capital market business for JLL India, where he was instrumental in creating a robust platform focused on client delivery and positioning JLL as the leader in capital markets in India. Shobit holds a master's in business admin and MMIS Mumbai. Shobit, one beautiful quality about him, he's always smiling. Even in the deepest of crisis, he's smiling. I think that's what we need in today's world.
Yeah.
A person who's always smiling. And whenever anybody wants money, connect with him, he'll get it for you.
That's just the one piece I wanted to add is that, across all the webinars that we've heard, whether it's from Mr. Virwani, whether it's from, Mr. Piramal, Deepak Parekh, everybody has reminded us that cash is king. And this is the guy who can take us to the king. So
but Anuj called me before the webinar and said, these guys want to know what's happening in Calcutta. Is there any funding? I said, ulta chahiye, unko bolo paisa dusri jagah de. They don't need the money. They are not good at all. I really enjoy coming to Calcutta because I get refreshed. So Calcutta is really, in that sense, you guys have been very, very disciplined about how you've levered. There may be one or two exceptions, but that's nothing.
And Shobit, unko pata hi nahi hai because they are actually just there only. They don't come into Bombay and see
the stress. So it is actually quite blissful where you guys are. I think a lot of the Bombay guys may want to relocate to Calcutta and say, "Yaar, ye acha hai wahan pe."
And everybody knows everybody else. There's no real competition. I know. I remember this is the only place. Many years ago, I'll tell you, 20 years ago, I used to come to Calcutta. I was doing retail then. And वो सामने से डेवलपर बोलता था, अच्छा एक काम करो, तुम इससे मिलने चले जाओ, मेरा गाड़ी छोड़ आएगा, वो भी रिटेल कर रहा है, इसको लेके आया है तो इधर भी चले जा, दुकान पे इसको भी चाहिए होगी, right? It doesn't happen anywhere else in the country. That you are so sort of caring about each other. It's like one firm, right? It's like Calcutta developers, one group. Yeah, you don't need CREDAI now. It is actually one group. I don't know what to tell you guys. I just want to start from the point that look, I think if I have to just describe from a financial perspective, economy has gone into a shock. I think it's the world economy that's gone into the shock. India is no different. We've done well. We're only 30% down. Some of the other BRICS economy are worse. And in fact, their currency has devalued more. In fact, rupees held up the best. It's only 7% down, right? Many other currencies are doing worse off. So I think it's from a finance and economy perspective, I don't think we've just come out of the shock. You've just realized you've hit a big accident and you come out saying all is well. You're walking and you don't feel the pain, right? I think the pain is going to start in a while. Maybe Calcuttans don't feel it as much. Probably you weren't over speeding, right? But a lot of other guys were over speeding. I go to small developers, they've borrowed like 3,000 crores. And I ask him, what's your turnover? He says 300 crores. I said, "Ye kaise ho raha hai?" I mean, how do you borrow 3,000 crores against revenue of 300? It is not even the bottom line, it's the top line, even before COVID, right? So this is nothing to do with COVID. And I think my experience, and Anuj and I kept exchanging notes, and he said, "Tumko, what are you hearing?" I said, "I'm only hearing laughters." And he said, "What are you talking about?" I said, some developers are like playing snakes and Ludo, snakes and ladder. सब नीचे थे 1 to 10 वाले रो पे, बाकी सारी इंडस्ट्रीज ऊपर थी, फिर बड़ा सांप काट के सबको नीचे ले आया. So now you're looking back and saying बच गए, सभी वहीं पे है बस, किसी को कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ रहा है. They are so happy about their position, but I think the difference is that the industry will move up again, and some of these developers who didn't manage their balance sheet and who don't really care, right, are going to stay at that level only. They will not be able to recover. I'm sure you guys were on a call with Deepak Parekh this afternoon, and he said if you've defaulted before COVID, there's no help. There's nobody listening to you. There is no help. It's only for new cases that things will differ, right? Where you've genuinely been impacted by COVID, like retail, like hospitality, where the accounts were current 1 month ago, and today you're just staring at Anu says it's 000, right? So if you're at a zero, then industry will look and people will help. I think one big request that's gone out, and this time it's not so much bankers, but more developers, but more bankers, that they're insisting that one-time restructuring be allowed. If that happens, I think there will be a respite. Otherwise, we are staring at a pile of NPAs. There is going to be defaults because March month, which was very heavy, not only on interest and principal, people haven't paid GST, they haven't paid income tax, they haven't paid salaries. So there is a host of default if it goes into that situation, right? If government doesn't help. So we are all heavily reliant on the fact that our government and RBI will do something, hopefully. Good news, again, Anuj mentioned it, that interest rate, SBI is leading that race at 7.5. All other private banks are at sort of 8%. But I'm given to understand that they will also transmit the 50 bips before the end of May. It'll efficiently move down, and that there's going to be further rate cuts. So it's very likely that end of May, beginning June, when the markets reopen, and that's the scenario everybody is building, that life will be normal beyond the end of May, right? It may not be beginning May. Now it's very clear. 3rd, I think Bombay is the hotbed, so may get a 15 days extension. By end of May, I think people are saying that, interest rates for home loans will come down to 7%, which is a very, very strong reason for end users to go and take it. Second, when last time it was at 7%, it was 2007. But at that time, the property prices were at its peak. This time, the property prices already are at its low, right? It's not that COVID has done anything to property prices. Discounts were available. You guys were operating on single digit margin, if at all, right? Many people were just selling it cost to cost, right? And by the way, the product is also ready, right? That time, everything was being launched. Today, everything is ready, right? So it's huge difference from a home buyer's perspective. I think it'll continue. As far as resi financing is concerned, which is simple construction finance, I think it's going to change forever. It's not going to be the way we were doing it earlier, saying 1.8 cover, 40% of the construction cost to be financed, 50%. I think it's going to turn very similar to offices. Those of you built offices know how it is done. 100% of construction cost plus interest for the next 3 years when you're under construction is fully financed by the bank.
Wow.
That's going to be the new normal for residential, saying don't depend on the consumer sales. Even if you do sales, very good, great idea, but we are not dependent on it. We will give you a full line and you draw 80%, 70%, whatever matters. And they're going to give you higher moratorium periods. They're just going to ensure that if they finance a greenfield project, it is not stuck for money. I think it's a bigger pain for the banks than for all of us, because they also ultimately get rated on their own performance, which is whether the loans are current, whether NPAs are happening. I think Deepak Bhai quite a few times in his call said that we are also being judged and we are also learning. And if NPAs pile up, then we are also going to be rated downwards.
Shobit, I think Apurva is wanting to also do a Q&A. But I think one of the questions that he had asked specifically was that is there money available for Calcutta developers, for Bengal?
A huge amount of money.
We are okay on time, by the way, so don't worry. We'd love to hear your
I thought, okay, got it. Sorry, my apology then.
Sorry, I'll anyways cut it short. But just to come to the point, I think banks are flush with cash. Calcutta hasn't shown, like I said, Calcutta developers are mostly all current. They are very sort of disciplined about it. So I don't think money is the issue. They don't like high cost finance. I'm not going to talk about it. But if any of you need that high cost financing, bitter pill, 18 to 21%, please do call us. There's enough of that also that's there. So we are not running out of any medicine for any situation. And I think there's also a new product that's come in that's called inventory funding. The only Indian bank that's doing it is Dena Bank, but their sizes are small. They can do between 15 to 25 crores, 100% cash out, because this is against ready inventory, 1.5 to 1.6 cover. But there are also global players who can do inventory funding, which is more equity style, that they'll just buy that inventory off you. And the only put call option is you have to deliver. If you don't deliver on time, as per schedule, as per specs, then you have to please buy them back at single digit returns, which is also, by the way, not expensive. So you can perhaps even afford to default, because you're still talking about sub 9% type of interest rate. The first deal has happened. It's a Japanese fund called Marubeni. They invested in Vadhva developers in Bombay, bought 200 crores worth of inventory, gave whole money cash out. By the way, that was in sort of early stage construction, which is not the ideal situation, but they started with Bombay. But they're very, very willing to go anywhere, because they're not really taking construction risk. They are just like customer. They're buying it from you and they're willing to ride the market. And this is available between, say, 150 to 300 crores ticket sizes. That's all from my side, guys.
Wow, that was some very new ways of funding. Shobha, some things we are not using in this part of the country, especially the buyout kind of.
I'm not even selling it. It's just a solution. If you're stuck, don't go on that path. It's only if it's necessary. I think you guys are well funded, so yeah, go ahead.
I think all of us require some kind of funds or the other. So let's hope for the best. Before I start questions, I'd like to invite Prashant. I can't see him on the call. Is Prashant? Are you around?
Yeah, he's just here. I think he'll put on his Prashant.
I think, yeah, you might need to put your camera on and unmute yourself.
Yeah, yeah, Prashant should be there.
Yeah, I'm there. Hello.
Yeah,
Prashant, your camera is off. Is it?
No, actually, it was done by admin. Hi, good evening, everybody. And quickly, in 2-3 minutes, I would just capture the gist data point. I think most of it has been covered. So it's good to know the numbers where we stand in terms of data, so that we can plan for the future. So when I look at Kolkata data, it truly turns out to be that this is an affordable market, and most of the supply, if I see Kolkata on a pan-India basis, it contributes towards 6% of the entire supply in the top 7 cities, while unsold inventory, it occupies 7% of the share. And the good part and the bad part can be that most of the supply that is stuck is also on the affordable side. And then 2%, or let's say more than 56% of the inventory were getting completed in 2 years. So here are a few key takeaways that we came across when we were interacting with the customers, that they have a very well-defined budget. This is again across the 7 cities that we did. And let's say the budget is anything below 80 lakhs. So in this parameter, I think Kolkata's inventory and supply fits quite well. And the second part was that this market is entirely driven by end users. Few of the silver linings that we could draw from the build-up that we have in Kolkata in terms of supply is that if the job losses in the unorganized sector is contained quite well by the government, I think this sector will remain to do well. Affordable, I'm talking about. And one thing that is unique to Calcutta, that a lot of migratory population has come to tier 1 cities like Mumbai, Bangalore, and Pune for work. And in this scenario, there might be some serious thought about reverse migration in the white collars also, tier 1, tier 2 IT companies. And I have lived in Kolkata for quite long. What I have realized that the influence of parents on purchasing decision of their children is quite high. And in this scenario, I think the need of a physical asset, a roof over the head is kind of highlighted. So if we are able to pitch the product right, and I kind of, I think the ticket sizes are quite well, I think there might be some movement in affordable and budget segment. So, I know we are running out of time. Most of the things will be covered during the Q&A. I would hand it over to Anuj.
Just one thing, Purva, I'm just reading another analysis that our team did. So they're saying is an exodus of tens of thousands of people from various cities immediately after lifting of lockdown has happened. People who possibly have their roots somewhere else and now want to go back home. So, it is possible that, we may have that thing as well as what Prashant is saying is that, it may be a lot of the, population from Calcutta is in various cities. Who knows that, the mind shift. I mean, I was speaking with earlier with the guy who, is quite a reputed guy. He was saying to me is that, this time traditional economics is not going to work. This time comparisons of past are not going to work. It is going to be 3 things. He said is psychologist, sociologist, and technologist. And he said is that these are the 3 things. So, who knows that, this is like tens of thousands of people are starting to go back to their hometowns and wanting to say is I want to stay there only and I don't want to go and migrate. Quite possible that we may see some of this. By the way, when the labor, survey was done, much of that labor is also saying I'm going back home and I'm not looking to come back to the city now.
Sure. Also, I'm sorry if you've given the impression that we are tight on time. We are getting a lot of valuable insights from all of you gentlemen. So we would love to kind of take as much time as you would allow us to. Having said that, I'll start with questions, and I'll also request all of the audience to kindly, keep sending questions on the chat option, which Once you click on more, you will get the chat option. If you post it there, I will try and pick out as many of those as possible. But we've also received some questions, on email before the event itself, and I'll start with some of those. Anuj, as we were talking, earlier in the day, people are now beginning to get into more of a sales cycle, saying that, this is a new reality, new way of living, and we need to sell. We can't wait for things to open up, etc. So, given the current uncertainty, and especially, where a lot of the potential customers are also uncertain about their own financial situation going forward, what are the things that we as a developer community can do to, make them buy now versus waiting for, longer time?
Yeah. So Apurva, tough one to do it. And I can tell you is that how the transition we have made. I think for the first 4, 5, 6 days, I think all of us were stunned in Anarock. When we were 2,000 guys, we were like stunned. We didn't know what to do. I would say is the next 5, 7 days, Apurva, was that everybody was engaging, everybody was working hard, everybody was doing things. And they were working like 10 hours a day. And, each day when we got together, we discovered that, they were very busy and lots of things, but we were not sure what productivity it was. At the beginning of really last week, we said is that we're going to be judging you only on revenues, nothing else. We're not judging you on how hard you are doing and, how many CP meetings you have done through webinars and how many CP digital meetings you have done. Just do revenue. And we then empowered them through this platform, given Rahul Yadav's full team, he built it up. And now we're just pushing that dialogue in only. I think is that to all our friends who are here, don't, जैसे बोलते हैं हाथ पे हाथ रख के मत बैठो. There is things that are happening, and I'm telling you this genuinely. A lot of our sale has happened, Apurva, in Bangalore and Pune, and from certain segment, and that segment is because those people were differentiated by the building societies because they were tenants. कि आप नहीं जा सकते, आप नहीं आ सकते. They were like inferior citizens in those building societies only, and they felt as कि बहुत I want to buy my own only. Second is the landlords have sort of misbehaved. कि आप घर छोड़ के नहीं जा सकते, बाहर नहीं जा सकते because आप मेरा घर contaminate कर दोगे. Otherwise, so there are those things that are certainly happening, and if the guy is there, and I said it earlier, Apurva, on that MCHI, don't sell. Do a gel, tell, sell. I think the mistake that we are making even on online is to try and sell. Abhi aapke paas, we got Satish Magar yesterday with our 2,000 guys, and he said beautifully, we said is one piece of advice, he says is don't try and sell hard. At the end of the day, he will definitely buy. It is humanity at this moment in time that you have to do is, and that is how the voice modulation, the sale is happening. And that's where we feel is that Tata said yesterday, Mahindra said yesterday, Shapuji Palunji said yesterday, they're all moving towards this, the entire online platform. And Apurva, it is not going to go. We had a meeting with, very large corporate guy on the call, and, he was pushing us and we're saying we're doing it. But I said to him, sir, it's to the lockdown and maybe a little bit longer than the lockdown. He said, no, it is not about your customer, Anuj. It is not about the buyer. I am not wanting the buyer to come to my site. Because what if this buyer is, has a virus? He'll bring that virus to my site. My site will get quarantined. My construction will stop only. And that's where, it is that it is going to remain here. This online is not going in. But along with the online, there are other things that you have to do is to be able to go out and sell. And one thing that I'm saying to all the friends who are on the screen is, Apurva, things are happening. ऐसे नहीं है कि कुछ नहीं हो रहा. मैं तो आपको exact data दे रहा हूँ that this 143, and by the way, Sumendu is there. He's sold in Calcutta. Start and finish is during this lockdown period in whatever that product is, Tata Avenida or 88 East. During this period only, start to finish, it has happened. So Apurva, please tell the people, tell your teams, respective teams के हो रहा है काम. बहुत मेहनत करोगे होगा. Focus only on revenues. ये नहीं कि कितनी मेहनत आप कर रहे हो.
Sure. Some very interesting insights there, Anuj, in terms of how landlord behavior and society behavior is kind of causing people to think about buying. That was a very interesting insight for me, I'm sure, for most of us. You know, the other thing, Anuj, which is getting talked a lot at this point when people are starting to sell is, should we offer discounts? Are people going to kind of buy if we offer discounts now versus wait? And if my competitors are going to offer discounts, should I as well? You know, what are your views on discounting in the current environment?
So, Purva, my thought is it's a slippery slope. It's a slippery slope. You cut down the price by 10%. Buyers, why did you not cut down by 15? You cut down by 15. Why don't you do it by 25? It's like a falling knife. At what level do you pick up that knife? It just becomes very difficult dialogue with the buyer at that time. My thought is, as it is, and Shobit alluded to that, is that the balance sheets have so thin margin that any meaningful reduction in the price, small little bit here there, or bringing out a different scheme is absolutely fine. Any meaningful discount will really hurt the project. Yet there will be a pool of many people who will give discounts. Why they will give discounts is, why they'll even give large discounts is because they have an existing lender that they have to go out and service. Our thought is much of that money, the sale proceeds, is actually going to go to the existing lender, not to the cement and steel in the project in there. And I think that is the dialogue that you have to have with the prospective buyer on the discount. I am not a big supporter, and neither is any one of us, on the screen within Anarock on the price reduction. Having said that, everybody has their own business approval. I won't know somebody else's position at this moment in time. So it's very nice for me to preach. We're only giving general direction. The bottom point is, guys, we have to survive this. So whatever is required for you to survive, do it. But I'm telling you, it becomes difficult if you start to cut the price. There is no end to that. On the contrary, Apurva, you give, like Piramal does. They do it Piramal assurance. So it's a Piramal price assurance that they give. That if ever we were to reduce the price by more than, I think they say 5% or something like that, we'll buy it of you.
Again, requesting everyone to put their speakers on mute, please. Victor, can you help with this, please? Can you help us put everybody back on mute? Thanks. Sorry, Anuj.
That's all, Apurva. So my thought is that we just be very careful on slashing the prices.
Sure, absolutely. Anuj, the other thing people are kind of worrying about is cancellation, saying that, a lot of people who are themselves in difficult situations might end up, or just out of nervousness, might end up cancelling. So are you seeing any of these trends already? What are your thoughts on how to mitigate this, and how do we brace for this?
So definitely in the survey, it came out very loud and clear. And that's how I started my first sort of 5 or 7 points as well, Apurva. Clearly, the existing home buyer is also saying is that I'm going to tell either my bank, or I'm going to be slow in giving the installment. So I think we'll have to start to incorporate this within our cash flows, that there is a likely chance that the payments may get delayed. Now, if we push hard on those delayed payments, Apurva, there is chance that it will get cancelled. Because as I said, is, at this moment in time, the guy is, look, I don't know whether I have my job when I go back to the office, or maybe 1 or 2 months later even, that whether he will continue to draw his existing salary, or or salary will come down. So I think you'll have to have specialized teams, not the regular CRM in there, Apurva. These will have to be trained, specialized teams who are able to ensure that they're counseling the buyer for not cancelling it. They're sympathetically speaking, they are empathetic to the buyer, because you can understand the buyer's mindset as well at this moment in time. Huge amount of nervousness, huge amount of thoughts going on in his or her mind. that what's going to happen going forward. And today I am only paid 5% or 7% or 9%. I can easily come out of this agreement arrangement that I have with the developer. So be mindful that there is going to be high risk of cancellation if we were to go forcefully on asking for payments, and that your existing payments of 50-60%, where you've received, even those are going to become slow.
Sure, absolutely.
I just want to add here.
Yeah, please.
I'm saying mathematically, just be mindful that actually cancellations cost you a lot. I don't know whether you've noticed, but your sort of sales and marketing budget is 4-5%, which is already invested the moment sale has happened. And then you have to cancel it, and then you have to resell that apartment. It's actually costing you a lot more. So it's better to sort of try and
retain.
Save that sale, right? If you've already done it, if you've consummated by giving in some value, but rather than just saying, look, I can't do anything, you've committed, so either this is it or you go home, right? I think that's a very hard step, because it ultimately is pinching your pocket. It's not pinching his pocket as much. He didn't pay the brokerage.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks so much. Anuj and Shobit, I just request you to also share some, any new innovative marketing, techniques or any schemes, etc., that people across the country might have come out with, other developers, anything that we can learn from in this period.
So one of the things that we're thinking is of this subvention, that the buyer may really ask for that, given the nervousness whether the financial health of the developer is going to be able to sustain the project or not. We know that the RBI had cancelled. I don't know whether they'll bring it or not. It's been put on the proposition by your community to bring it back. But if not, then some of the larger guys, corporate guys in Bombay, are thinking of this as a scheme where they may need to bear the cost. So rather than saying it's a discount straight away, they are saying it's a developer subvention that they're willing to take without necessarily loading the full price onto this. So that's the first thing that I heard last week, that the analysis that one of the developer had was that there's going to be nervousness with the buyer, and if we can bring in this security. The others are usual things, that price protection definitely will be required. I think 50-60% of everybody's mind, Apurva, is on this online and digital, and that is what it is getting consumed with, and which we're fortunate that it has happened now, and so we know that it is what it is. Plus, we're saying is that it is going to remain here. It is not going to go away post lockdown. You may not like the buyer to come to your sites in there. I think those are the innovative things. We tried to find it out from China as well, that if there was anything innovative. I think their innovation was that the government put in a timeline that over the next 6 months, these benefits are there. So they put a very finite timeline, and hence the rush has come back to those guys. But they've also not been able to do anything innovative on this.
Interestingly, that's the exact discussion we were having at our CREDAI committee in terms of how to create an incentive for people to buy right now by asking government for time-bound incentives.
Yes.
So I'm now, Anuj, there are also people on the call from Durgapur, Howrah, a number of smaller cities within the state. And, there is a question in terms of your views on tier 2 and tier 3 towns, both resi and commercial.
So on the commercial side, Apurva, they had very little of the offices. These were local small businessmen who would take space on the leases. Those generally will be okay. Retail there as well would have struggled, and Durgapur and all these guys have been there. They have some very sophisticated retailers, and those retailers nationally would have got hurt. As a result of it, some pain will be visible even in tier 2, tier 3 towns. My thought on the retail and offices is, if you can retain, and this is from my experience in the past, 2008, 9, Apurva, try and retain the occupier. It is very painful to replace it.
We used to run JLL at that time, Apurva, for many, many, many quarters. That space continued to remain vacant. Certainly in these times, retail. If there was a retailer I had and he left, I don't know how to, bring in a replacement guy because everybody's hurt. Who's the replacement guy standing in there? Plus, retail in India, the depth in the category is so thin that, in each category, there are only 2-3 players really worth it. So try and retain them as much as you can. On the residential, we've got an office in Lucknow and Mohali. I mean, those offices have done pretty well. Even now, even in this number, they have a fair amount of, staff in there. If anything, I think tier 2, tier 3 may actually benefit, because if what we are seeing in this is that, there are a lot of people that are going to run back and, and this guy saying, psychologist and sociologist is the one who's going to be really driving the demand and not traditional economics. Then, there is a possibility that you may actually have a lot of the, migrating workforce, go back to those, some of those cities.
Apurva, just a moment here. Regarding the tier 2, tier cities in Bengal, do you have any data like on Howrah, Asansol, Siliguri? These are the cities in Bengal or towns. Any kind of data for residential offtake? Kind of
Prashant.
Yeah.
Prashant, you're on mute.
Yeah. So unfortunately, as of now, we don't have, but we have started collecting data. Maybe in a couple of weeks, I'll be in a position to share with the product.
Okay.
I have a question. You were talking about reverse migration. Now, as I see, I think most of the reverse migration must be of blue collar. Do you think there will be reverse migration of white collar or, white to gray who are actually our customers?
So Sushilji, good idea. Good thought. It will start with the blue collared, Sushilji. But blue collared is the one who's also looking at your affordable housing. So they're also your buyers in that. I think the white collared will only come back and then they may want to come back only if there are job prospects available in that city. So for example, if there were job prospects that were going to open up in Calcutta from the IT sector, then only they were going to come in. If Bangalore was to be hit really badly with this virus, and the corporates decided that we want to open our next office in Calcutta, not in Bangalore, that's when you will see a lot of the reverse migrating population. By the way, which will happen, Sushilji, for industrial. We are starting to see that Japan has made this announcement. To my mind, it's like a war that Japan has openly declared, and Japan, out of all the players, to say is any company who relocates a Japanese company out of China, here is 13,000 crores. And we will be happy to help you with the supply chain to relocate out of China. And the other thing is that for America, it is Trump's election year. He needs an enemy, and that enemy is going to be China. And that's where you will see a lot of the American firms on the manufacturing, on the outsourcing, wanting to really come into Vietnam or Indonesia or India. In there. Plus your e-commerce is doing pretty decently. So your warehousing and others will do well. So the ability of Calcutta to drive at this moment in time with the government on the industrial side, the manufacturing outsourcing, which is coming in from international, should be pretty high.
Sure. Yeah. So, couple of questions again from the current chat box. Advice on new launches. Should people be ready to launch, and once the lockdown opens up, should we launch? Should we wait? And what's the situation?
So Apurva, this is we did one with Shapuji Palunji last week, and so my suggestion is that nobody knows the market. Apurva, the best way to launch is do it with an EOI. Sure. EOI is expression of interest, 20,000, 30,000 rupees. It's only an EOI. It is not a confirmed sale. And you say within 30 days of the lockdown opening up, you can come and have a look at it. If you don't like it, no questions asked. By the way, there is a price guarantee that our price is not going to go below this. If anything, it will only go above. Also, Apurva, a lot of the channel partners are sitting at home and twiddling their thumbs. And they also need to feed themselves and their families. So they are very aggressive with their existing, customer base. So in launch, there is a possibility that you may get a lot of eyeballs at this moment in time if you were to do the EOI. Now, a lot of people will say, but EOI is not sale. And we're also not saying, but at least 30-40% of that will get converted into sale in there. So I would suggest do that EOI, way, not necessarily a full launch, and do it with channel partners.
Sure. Again, Anuj, you had alluded to design changes in terms of flexibility, etc. If you can just tell us a little more about that.
So I would say is in three ways, Apurva, this will change. Is one in the offices, the density will go down. We used to get in 40, 50, 60 square feet per person. Many of our offices you will see is density norms will change. You'll also see co-working going through a transformation. I mean, like Ola, Uber, once the lockdown opens up, are not going to function. I mean, this also says that car sales have increased because people want to avoid public transport and sharing of transport. Because, you don't know who's the previous passenger who sat. Did he have any ailment? Did he have any virus in there? So I may not really take Ola, Uber. And this is where the co-working will also change, is that I don't know who's my neighbor who's sitting next to me. And where does he really come in from? So that's what on the offices. On the restaurants and theaters, until we find a vaccine, social distancing and design will be very, very different in there, because that's the two areas that you're going to see will go through a transformation on design. Where we were coming on Resi was when people have come out and said is, we need more flexible furniture. We need rooms which can collapse and open up and do during the different parts of the day be used different functionally in there. And that's where they have asked for sort of flexibility, because they've now lived in those houses. So they're like, we want more space that we can utilize in the same area itself.
Sure. Another interesting question is, in terms of green buildings, now that people are realizing the importance of better air quality and things, do you think there is going to be more of a demand or a premium attached to green certified buildings, or buildings which show features for better air quality, etc.?
So Apurva, on the office side, it had already come up in there, and it wasn't necessarily that you got a premium, but your building would have got leased certainly with a multinational, because the multinational boards had mandated their real estate heads that you'll only go in green buildings, and that's where the offices had anyway started to move towards more sustainable building. I think on the residential, it'll take a little time. I think our community is not yet evolved to that extent. Maybe it'll change the behavior. Nobody knows. I mean, one of the guys that I was speaking with, Apurva, he said is that Anuj, with everything, and this is like a world war. He said is after World War II, women came in the workforce. Women were never there in the workforce because men died, men were busy fighting. And that's how McDonald's said is to the women, we need you to come in. He said is, after SARS, the Alibaba came in. After 9/11, security companies came in. After this, we just think is certainly there will be different formats of doing business. Us to think, Apurva, that we are going to go back to the old normal is not going to happen in there. I mean, lots of people are now not even saying new normal, because there is no normal only. It'll be like a new world that you have to get in there. So I think that's where my thought is. Around that point, that we're going to get into a new world, which will your old habits will change. One of the concerns that the retailers also have is that middle-aged people like me, will become very used to online shopping, and I have certainly found it very easy now. I was never an online shopper. I like this is quite easy. This is quite comfortable. You can order and you can get things delivered. Now that habit may become a habit over a period of few more months now to, for me to go in there, maybe not. I mean, the theater guys were saying is that English Winglish is a movie that was going to be released on the theaters, and then this COVID-19 came in. I mean, they've released it directly on the platforms.
Right.
Who knows that, this may just bypass everything.
Most, yes.
No, absolutely. So, Anuj, there are a bunch of questions coming in, but I think we'll try and come to a wrap. But before we finish, I want to ask both yourself and Shobit for two kind of opportunities or positive points that are coming out of this situation, so that we can end on a happy note and all start planning for good things.
Shobit, go ahead.
So two things I can say. Look, from a financing perspective, lots of new models will come in. I don't know if you are aware, SBI already had a product which gives construction guarantee, right? Obviously, it's naturally available to grade A developers, right? I can tell you one case in Bombay where they advertise saying SBI guarantee. By the way, when SBI gives guarantee, it is also very happy to pick up the home loans on that project. The developer never needed to draw any CF from SBI because everything got sold out. Every single apartment got sold out. He's delivered the project in 2 years. He's out, right? Because it was a SBI guarantee on the project construction. Maybe other banks will follow suit. Maybe HDFC and others will come up with these kind of products, which will help greenfield or new launches to say, look, if we are funding it, we're guaranteeing completion. And by the way, we are very happy to pick up home loans. So guys, I mean, I'm quite hopeful that something new and positive will come out of this. And second thing, I think you guys anyways did it well. I think other markets weren't, but I guess you guys need to continue to collaborate. According to me, not everybody can do everything. If you feel that you are good at construction but not good at sales, maybe you should partner up with a brand which sells better in your market. There is no shame. I think you guys, like I said, you guys were always collaborative, but maybe you need to do more of that just to make sure that, the market stays afloat and all you guys on the screen are there, and you sort of carry them over and look back and laugh at this period saying, look, what were we thinking? We are all out of this. I think that's my two things that I would do, look at new products and collaborate.
So two things, Apurva, I would say is that, I'm very, very positive. I think our government has done a fantastic job till now. I mean, it is hurting our businesses. I mean, there's no other business than ours which is getting hurt more. We're 2,000 white-collared guys, and sitting in there. Yet I think is that when I speak with the global guys, I do get a sense is that they're watching India carefully. And if we come through this relatively less harmed, I think we have a fairly decent opportunity of rearranging the world order. And by the way, after every large incident, the world order changes. I do feel is, the world is getting, I'm using a strong word, against China, because everybody's, and for right reasons as well, they have not given the data and, they didn't give early warning signs, etc., etc. So I do feel is that India has, sort of a distinct ability to be able to really rearrange the world order. For us and for the real estate developers, I certainly think industrial will be big from e-commerce point of view and from manufacturing outsourcing. And you have got a huge amount of inroad with the government. I would certainly sit down with the government and say, guys, this is coming. How do we make sure that it is not going to some other state now? And, can we bring in the labor laws? Can we get in, single window clearances? Can we get in, approval processes done very quickly? Because we're sensing, I mean, I had this article which said is that Times of India has released some 200 companies that they have discovered are looking at already starting to look at India. I'll just read it out on the... about 200 US companies seeking to move manufacturing base from China. So, and this is USISPF. It is already, this is happening, and Apurva, it will happen. I mean, clearly the way that it has gone in. So can we get together with the government before some other state gets together? We missed the IT boom in Calcutta.
can we not miss this boom in there?
Just one question.
Yeah.
Anuj.
Haji, bolo.
Anuj, a lot of thought and a lot of people have been suggesting in the CREDAI national and our level also, should we advertise or publicize real estate as an asset class to invest in, since it's an hard asset?
Yeah, I don't think so. Invest in, Nandu. Invest in nahi aayega. Mushkil hoga wahan pe. But I think is that, I think Shobit said it the other day, roti, kapda aur makan. Aap makan bhul hi gaye wahan pe. I think it is safety, security. Investment mat bolna. Investment bologe to, then फिर वो हम stock market से compare करने लग जाएगा. But I think it is very important that we bring out, जैसे mutual funds safe है.
Correct.
Something like that, if we were to bring out a campaign. Bilkul, absolutely.
LIC HFL has already actually brought it out. They have a beautiful advertisement and says "Stay home, stay safe," right? By LIC HFL, right? So they're just it's like a COVID ad that they have done, right? I think if we continue saying this constantly, right, under various banners, I think the message will go, and definitely Makan is going to come back in order of priority. I think it had just gone too low. Rental is okay, but I think
with the stock market crash, I think this is the hard asset. It's a better and safer investment, as Anuj says. Yeah.
And the second one I would say is Apurva. It may not be good news for all on the screen, but I certainly think land prices will correct. I think is that that is one thing, because we know everyone's balance sheet. There isn't really profit margin only left in that. Sale prices aren't going to go up. If anything, the talk is that it'll start, there'll be a hammering. Even today, one of the leaders said is that, it'll go down by 20%. In that is, so, ultimately what is going to give way? It has to be land that has to give way. It has to be your ratio sharing, with the landowner that has to give way, because, cost of construction is what it is. Financing cost is what it is. Marketing cost is what it is. You may say 1 or 2 or 3% here, there, but there's nothing much in there is. So I do feel is that you're going to start to see is land, is one thing that we always thought will continue to appreciate. I think it will, in this cycle, perhaps take a major beating.
Great. I think there are some great insights, Anuj, from you, from Shobit, and from Prashant. On behalf of CREDAI Bengal, I really want to thank all of you for taking this time out. I know you all are doing a number of webinars across the day and across the week. So thank you again so much for taking time out. With the permission of the President, I'd now like to conclude this, and thanks once again.
Thank you very much, for really enjoyed.
Thanks, Nandu.
Thanks,
Bye.
Akhil.
Take care.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
bye.
Thank you.
Bye.